Life is good. We just had the show last night. It was really, really well received. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about it. It was well received. Everything went really cool. It was fun. I I met a bunch of cool artists. I had a bunch of interesting conversations with some new people. I got to meet a bunch of people, kids who were really interested in art, so that was fun. All in all, it was just nice. You know, it was just nice. I'm trying to figure out a way that we can get this so the backlighting is not insane. All right, there we go. It was just good. It was really good. And then I did a live show last night with a lot of art. I'll show you what I worked on. We might work on it a little more, actually. But this is what I started last night. It's kind of working on layering a lot with my black and grays. I keep trying to tell people like it's about time more than it's anything else. You have to give yourself time to kind of put things together. So that's a big thing. Alex's birthday is in 2 days, so I have to run some errands today and get that. My breakfast today is a egg sandwich with cheese on rye and a giant pickle. I'm sure one of you is probably going to gift that in a weird way, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. Mostly, what I'm trying to do today is just take care of everything so I don't have to stress anymore. It's been so easy to stress about a lot of things. So, that's my big plan. I've got a thing I gotta pick up for my wife for her birthday. So that'll be cool. I've talked with the family already, so we all have little plans and stuff to do to help her have a really good birthday. Last year was kind of rough, so I want her to just not feel any stress and enjoy herself. It's that whole thing of like I always try and tell people like the thing about this is it's kind of like a live check-in, and it talks also about like painting and what it means to be a painter and what it involves. Because I think a lot of times people don't necessarily get that like we're people, we have other things going on in addition to trying to make lots and lots of artwork. I feel like a lot of us are getting better about telling people and showing people what we do for a living and how we can, and then what that living looks like, as opposed to like, I go places and I do things and I do this and I do that, but it's like some of us, are working on trying to, have, there we go, Basquiat. Some of us are trying to like work on things and get all this stuff going. We have these really beautiful plans. I was talking to my friend Beth yesterday at the art show, and she was saying they had like this really crazy dollhouse thing going on, and so it was like built out this huge like glass box over this giant house somebody made, and all the things they put in it with like a floor scale. It's kind of nuts because it had one bathroom in the whole house. It was 3 levels, and you had to go through a bedroom to get to the actual bathroom for the house. So it was kind of a strange layout type of thing. But my friend was talking about, my friend Beth, who's a curator, goes, I always wanted to get one of these, and then I realized like what I really just want is a house. I want to be able to do this with my house. To have a house and then do this with my house. And I was like, yeah, no, that feels about right actually. That feels more kind of the pulse of what we're all working towards. We want to have like a real space. Like my ideal studio space would be to buy one of those containers and then just build it out. Have like a little walkway going from the back porch to the studio, and then just the studio's kitted out, you know. Got an air conditioner, got a heater, got maybe a ceiling fan going. And then all these little kind of workstations. It made me think of art school in a lot of ways, because like in art school they used to tell us, you, before you do like a website or anything of that nature that you have to work on for a client or for yourself, you're supposed to kind of just draw it out, sketch it out, almost like an architect, no matter what it is, so that it's fully fleshed. I think the problem most of us have is we kind of fly in blind with a lot of stuff. And that can be really intimidating if you don't have like a fully fleshed out idea yet. I think with my paintings, I have like 6 or 7 paintings going on in my head that I want to do. So it's not, I don't need to really draw them beforehand because I've already done them so many times internally. So it has like this whole effect of I'm painting backwards in time to kind of get something going. So not only do I have the piece that I'm trying to do, but I'm kind of decreating it while I'm creating it. Like I've got this very finalized concept that's flexible, and then I'm trying to make it layer by layer to get to that point. So I know what the end result is. And I think it's just interesting. I mean, it's always been interesting to me. I don't know if that was interesting that is to other people when they see the process, but like process videos and all that stuff, they're really kind of interesting and important to me because it gives you perspective in ways that you otherwise would not have. So, I met a young artist yesterday named Sam, and Sam was interesting. He was a filmographer who was also a photographer, and so he had all these. He was a young guy. He had a lot of ideas about stuff, and so we kind of went back and forth. I don't believe as much in the whole social media aspect. I know that's kind of the opposite of what people wish to hear. I just remember when social media came about, and we all worked really hard to try and impress people and get things going. And then, it changed. We went from MySpace to Facebook to art database to artist database to 5 or 6 other types of little things, basically. And they all change periodically. They're not made of. We didn't own them, so we didn't really control how long they lasted. And in this day and age, a lot of those companies that are up and comers build themselves up so they can sell to other companies, So you can be sold to Facebook, basically. So, on that, I don't know, it just doesn't mean as much. There was a time when it meant a lot, and now I'm kind of like, I'm in my 40s. I don't care anymore. I'd much rather promote a show online through all the venues and all the stuff, and then have an actual physical thing that people get to go and see and be a part of. and bribe them with candy. And that strategy has worked for me for a long time, honestly. I have made it a point to try and do at least about 5 shows a year. I feel like it's important to do like festivals and do lots of videos and document things, but also figure out a way to just kind of make stuff and be happy with making things. And then show it to people, but not expect. Show it to them so that the next time they see me out in the world, they get really excited. So I think that's kind of the bigger thing than the idea or the concept of you're probably never going to meet me, you're probably never going to see my art, you're probably never going to do any of these types of things, but at least you like to watch me post type of thing. And I don't know. I think if I'm doing like a festival somewhere, if I'm doing Awesome Con or I'm doing Comic Con in the artist alleys or whatnot, even if you can't go, I like the idea that like you'd think about going. You'd be like, all right, well, how much is this ticket going to cost, and how much is this going to go, and how much is this going to be? Because then if I do that, then I can go and I can see this and I can have fun and we can hang out and we can do all this type of stuff. And I'm like, that'd be cool. Like when a couple months ago, some people from New Zealand popped up in the Oscar Goes to I'm Still Here. Hello, Raphael. Um, and it's like that whole kind of thing, man. It's interesting in a lot of ways how like you want to see a concert. You know what I mean? Like we're artists. We're not musicians, but we're artists. So if we do kind of like a fun little we do a show, we do an event, we do all these types of things. Like it's cool to think that people would be super jazzed to just see you, even if they can't, but they would want to. That's a big deal. Like I only really started making prints because people were like, "Well, I can't really come to this thing, but I really want to support and I want to grab some art and put it up in my home." So I was like, "Okay," and that's when I started making prints. Prints was never really a thing that I did before all that. It just wasn't. It wasn't the mode I was trying to work on. If that makes any sense to anybody. You just got to kind of let yourself be experimental, you know? Take take these moments and realize that like you could be making art that could be changing the world if you wanted to. You're not completely and utterly stuck in this place where things don't go in a certain way and everything's not necessarily perfect, but it's still good. So, the sketchbook for the day is this guy. We've looked over this one before, but I was thinking about it a while back, and I was like, there's some explanations that could go into this. That'd be interesting. So, I was playing this game called Ooblix. Ooblix was kind of like a Pokemon farmer type of thing, and I've never really been a Pokemon person, but I just liked the idea of like, I don't know, it was cute, it was fun, and it stuck with me because like the weird designs of all the creatures and whatnot. And I started kind of making my own stuff. When I was a kid, we used to do that all the time. We would play video games at arcades, and then we would go home and we would try and draw them and make like little comic strips and whatnot about them. And it was almost like an action figure, but like a paper doll version of what was going on. And it was just really, really kind of engaging, you know? It was kind of fun. Every once in a while, I'll start to kind of do like a drawn out idea. For a bit, I was doing Jawtober, which was my silly version of Inktober, but via me, Jaws. Um, and so I wrote down like all these ideas and how I was going to do it to make these big like poster pieces that I sold a couple years ago. So that was fun. And then I started kind of working on like all these other kind of planned out designs for paintings and stuff like that. I don't feel like sketchbooks are meant to be complete type things. Like I think you can fill up a sketchbook, but I don't think that sketchbooks are meant to be this thing that you do that's meant to be like perfect. These complete works of art that come together doing all these things. Like we try our best to do everything we can do in the time span in which we do them. And so we make artwork and crazy ideas and crazy things that we do because that's what we're passionate about. Your sketchbook is meant to be something that you're passionate about. You're filling up, you got the void, and you're screaming into the void going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something different today. And you're allowed to be experimental and fail and be great at it and do all types of stuff. This is literally a toothbrush. And just kind of go with these funky little wild designs that are not, I don't know if they're not meant for the world to see, but they're just not meant to be this thing that has this extra wild weight to it. You know? Yes. Yes, that is what you think it is. I just think it's important. I think it's important to kind of make artwork for yourself sometimes. Like, to tell people, you know, sometimes you need to just make stuff and never show it to anybody if necessary. There was this person who was in my stream yesterday while I was painting that painting, which we'll go back to. And they were saying these ideas that they had for like weird art shows and stuff like that. And sometimes they're complete pieces. Where they were like, what if you blindfolded an artist and then the artist, what was it? What if you blindfold an artist, have the artist paint something, then put that in a time capsule, and then they come back eventually and they look at it to see what it looks like. And I was like, I don't really know how that works as a TV show, but it's an interesting concept. I think it would be fun to kind of screw around with and do all these things. I have been a strong advocate. Let me go back to this. I've been a strong advocate of the Free Palestine movement. And I know some people, it's very unpopular, and it'll probably get demonetized and all that stuff. But I will say it as many times as possible. These women and children and all these people, they deserve to be able to live their lives and grow old and do all this stuff. They deserve all the rights that everybody else has. And I know people will say in that, you know, what about the things and the stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not those people. Like you can't group everybody in with it. Like I've had many a friend and a roommate who is Israeli, and like they're good people. It's not a question of whether they're good people or not. They're good people. They're just, we have our own government that kind of sucks, and it's not, yes, Nintendo Switch. We have our own government that kind of sucks, and it's not an indication on us. You know what I mean? Like we are not making those choices that the world disagrees with. We are not making those choices that we disagree with. We are simply citizens in a country that is ever changing and doing things and moving and so on and so forth. So it is not an indictment. My beautiful wife. And I think that's what it could be. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think art is a protest. Art is a protest all by itself. We have so many artists that are so talented and amazing and intelligent that they can be anything. They can be the voice of generations. They can be the impressions of generations. They can be all these things. Somebody asked me yesterday about Cubism, how I felt about Cubism. And I was like, I mean, I understand it. I don't love it. There was artwork that they did that was incredible, and then there's artwork that they did that was commercial. The commercial would be Picasso for Cubism, and it's just kind of one of those things. Like there are a lot of art movements that throughout history were fascist and oppressive and so on and so forth. Look up Italian futurism. That's one that was literally about just straight up being a fascist. And if you look at it in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of like the movie Blade Runner in the way that the architecture came about for that. And they would just kind of do all these things. And I mean, most of the time, these movements don't last long. I think is probably the big issue that people don't get. They think like these are the things, and then for generations upon generations upon generations, they they just linger. It's like they really don't. Sometimes they're like 10 years, 5 years, and that's it. Just a lot of art is made during that time period that it's significant as far as history goes, but it doesn't mean that it's better or worse than anything that anybody else ever did. I do abstracts every once in a while just because I don't know what to paint, but I have a lot of energy that I want to dis- disband from myself, expand, get out of me, and so it just makes sense. So I have hundreds of abstract paintings. I'm not really an abstract painter, but I still do it anyways on occasion, um, even though I'm mostly a figurative painter. And so, yeah. I really love, like, kind of the way these kind of move. They're just interesting to me. And I realize, to some people they're just weird patterns and lines and etc. But for others, there's depth there. There's texture there. It's a good exercise for your brain. I think as an artist, like you got to be willing to kind of do stuff that is different than what you normally do to keep yourself sharp. Like like I said, this is not my normal stuff. This is what I do in a day to flex my muscles up here. And I kind of challenge you to do the same thing. Like I make it a point to draw a lot of stuff, read a lot of stuff, and then just kind of make things that expand across this. I really love this, honestly. It's really great. This is, I made this in the winter of 2022 to the summer of 2023. And I mean, I've definitely filled quite a few of these up with, I have a lot of these. I've filled quite a few of these up throughout the years. Some I do in a couple of months, some I do in a year, some take me several years. I keep them I keep them all kind of going and moving, but they're not indicated to be any type of specific thing or whatever beyond oh no beyond what I'm working on. I've got like a dozen of these, and each one sometimes has like three or four that are going on at the same time. And in those, I mean, there's stuff like this. There's stuff like this. There's, but in the same breath, there are, depending on whatever my medium I'm walking around with at the time, I'm I'm making work that kind of goes like that. Like it's a something like this, something like this. They're replaceable, which is nice. A brush, a pen, a pencil, all these things. There's so many sketchbooks that I forget I have them sometimes, and then I buy new ones. And I'm like, why do I have so many of these? And it's like you had an idea, and you went for it. And I think a lot of times, like that's what art's about. Like you have an idea and you go for it. You make it real. You make it tangible. I think a large amount of art and artistic expression is really kind of the idea of, I like this, I have an idea, let me make it real quick. There you go. Primarily, in my actual art, I make a lot of figurative paintings with ink washes and watercolors, and pastels, and acrylic if I want. There's a lot of mixed media. And I use different tools. I have everything from 1200 brushes to old toothbrushes to etc. And the reason I like rye bread is just because of the weird texture of it. I don't love the taste, I just like the way it looks. It's a strange problem. So yeah, that's the gist of what my week looks like. A long speech that lasted 20 minutes. But yeah, I'm gonna work on that art today. I gotta go out. Gotta relax for after this. I'm gonna relax for at least an hour, and then I'm gonna go out and get Alec a present, or a couple, depending. Then I'm going to probably go to the condo and pick up the rest of the stuff because there's not much left. And then I'm pretty much done. It's funny how that works. Like you do all these things to try and get stuff done, completed, and finished, etc. And as you do that, you start to realize there's just a lot to do in a day, but it's very doable. It's like compartmentalized aspect. I think in a lot of ways, like art has kind of helped me compartmentalize how to get tasks done. It's like seeing like a giant carpet and how all these textures and stuff come about. And some people see them and they see nothing but like fear and madness. And they don't know how they're going to make this kind of wild texture, but it's a piece by piece thing. You pick a line, you go from there. You pick an adjacent line, you go from there. And so on and so forth and whatnot. And it's just important. It's like important to your mind, you know? I also might go out with a staple gun and put up a bunch of flyers for the show. This goes on till May in Gaithersburg. So I'm excited. I'm tired, but I'm excited. My hope is that you have a really good week and everything goes really well for you. And you're amazing. When you see this, as you've watched to the end, basically, please write my wife, Alec, a happy birthday. That'd be really nice. I think she'd like that in the comments. She sees all this stuff. Sometimes she's my mod, so. I just think it'd be cool. Everything we do, Galeras, is for the pursuit of happiness in art. So, there's a couple layers here and there, then that's what we'll do. I like how it almost looks like triangles, like a lot of hard lines, but it's just layering. And I really love that. I like the transformative feel of it, you know? People ask me what art is to me, and I think art is like patience, really. There's a lot of patience that goes into art. You have to be willing to try things, fail at things, go back, and then fix them. And so that's my big plan. Alright, guys. Have a good day, okay? I will see you next time. Tomorrow's gonna have an art video, and I put out lots of shorts throughout the week, so hopefully you'll see me. If you get a chance, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get up to 1,000 people right now, so we can monetize the channel. So that'd be really cool. My name is Joseph Blake. I am a painter. Painter out. Ciao. Bye. Thanks for joining me.